Have you ever noticed that every time you apologize, people respect you a little less? Today, we confront the question, why did Niccolò Machiavelli insist that a wise ruler should never apologize? And more importantly, how can you use this ancient principle to stop losing power in your own life? Let us begin with the first and most vital lesson. Apologies weaken authority. You see, when a man in power admits his fault, he does not merely acknowledge a mistake. No, he proclaims to the world that he is fallible, uncertain, and vulnerable. And what happens when subjects, rivals, or even allies sense vulnerability? They circle like wolves around wounded prey. The truth of human nature is cruel but plain. Men admire strength and despise weakness. They may pretend to value honesty, they may praise humility in words, but in their hearts they long to follow the unshaken, the unbending, the one who projects certainty even in storm. An apology, no matter how sincere, strips away that certainty. It is as if the prince removes his crown with his own hand and invites others to question his right to wear it. Think for a moment of a commander upon the battlefield. His troops look to him for confidence, for the belief that their cause is destined to triumph. Now imagine that same commander standing before his men, lowering his head and confessing, "I was wrong, forgive me." What happens in that instant? The fire in their hearts cools, doubt creeps in. They ask themselves, if our leader is unsure, why should we remain certain? If he falters, why should we march forward? The apology does not unite, it unravels, and the same principle applies far beyond the battlefield. In courts, in councils, in kingdoms, in families, and even in the smallest matters of daily life. When you apologize, you hand power to the one receiving it. They stand tall, you kneel. They become the judge, you the condemned. For what is an apology but a confession before a tribunal where the other gains the pleasure of pardoning or punishing you as they see fit? You make yourself their subject, not their equal. Understand this, the act of apology is not neutral. It reverses the balance of power. To say, "I am sorry," is to place yourself beneath another, to give them the taste of superiority. And once men have tasted superiority, they hunger for more. They begin to expect your submission. They grow bold in demanding it again, and soon your authority is no longer respected but mocked. Now, you may argue, but Niccolò, does not humility win hearts? Does it not soften hostility? But this is the lie that moralists whisper into your ears, while in secret they laugh at those who believe it. Consider carefully. Humility may soothe for a moment, but it plants a seed of contempt. Men forgive a mistake more readily when it is ignored than when it is confessed. For in ignoring, you suggest the mistake is insignificant, hardly worthy of notice. In confessing, you magnify it, you parade it, you shout it into the minds of all who hear. Think of the ruler who stumbles in policy. If he presses forward with resolve, most will forget the stumble, or explain it away as part of a larger plan. But if he bows and apologizes, the stumble becomes the defining act of his reign. It is remembered, repeated, mocked, and worse, his rival seize upon it, wielding his own confession as a weapon against him. They need not prove his weakness. He has proven it for them. Apologies also invite opportunists. Show regret, and suddenly every grievance, every complaint, every demand will be laid at your feet. Why? Because your apology signals that you can be bent. The people see you willing to kneel, and they will press until you kneel again. Thus, one apology breeds another, and soon you are trapped in an endless cycle of admission and humiliation, each one eroding your authority more than the last. It is better, far better, to maintain silence or to cloak error in the garments of intention. A wise prince does not say, "I was wrong," he says, "It was necessary." He does not admit failure, he reframes it as strategy. The people will accept such reasoning, for they crave to believe in the strength of their ruler. They would rather be deceived by confidence than enlightened by weakness, and here lies the core truth. Men admire what they fear, and they follow what they admire. An apology removes both fear and admiration. It makes the prince ordinary, no different from his subjects, and a ruler who appears ordinary ceases to command obedience. He must then beg for it, like the common man. But obedience begged for is never secure. It can vanish at the first sign of doubt. This is why apologies, far from healing wounds, often open new ones. They do not restore authority, they dismantle it. To apologize is to show your enemies where to strike, your allies where to waver, and your followers where to lose faith. Remember, authority is built not on pity, but on perception, and the perception of strength must never be sacrificed upon the altar of remorse. Consider this second truth: power does not bow to regret, it bends only before strength. Men admire the resolute man, the one who stands unwavering even when storms rage around him. They may curse him, they may whisper against him, they may even fear him, but they follow him. The man who shows regret, however noble he thinks himself, loses the loyalty of his followers, the respect of his peers, and the fear of his rivals. Understand human nature as it truly is, not as poets and priests pretend it to be. Men say they admire honesty, but they do not. They claim to love the leader who confesses weakness, but their hearts betray them. In secret, they look down upon him. They may applaud the words of apology, but they never forget the tremor of weakness it revealed. And when the moment comes to choose between two leaders, they choose not the one who regretted, but the one who refused to bend. History offers countless examples. When rulers stood firm, even against overwhelming odds, they were revered. Think of the general who loses a battle yet declares, "This is but one step in our victory." His soldiers will march again for him, believing in his strength. But think of the general who lowers his eyes and begs forgiveness for the loss. His men no longer see him as a leader, but as a man like any other, fallible, shaken, and perhaps unfit to command. And men do not risk their lives for someone they see as unfit. Regret is a confession that the leader has been guided by error. Strength is the illusion that the leader has always been guided by purpose. Which one inspires loyalty? Which one plants doubt? The answer is clear. Even when you are wrong, you must appear as though you are right. Even when your plans crumble, you must act as though it was foreseen, as though every misstep was but a calculated move toward a greater design. For men prefer to follow a liar who seems strong than a penitent truth teller who seems weak. Let me reveal something that the weak never understand. The people do not want their ruler to be like them. They do not wish to see him humble, confessing errors, showing regret. They want to believe he is above such things, that he is made of stronger material. When the prince apologizes, he shatters this illusion, and the people no longer see a sovereign. They see a man, ordinary and fragile. And if he is but a man, why should he command their obedience? Why should he deserve their loyalty? Consider also the enemy. When your rival hears your apology, he does not see virtue. He smells blood. Your regret emboldens him. It tells him that you are unsure of yourself, that you have admitted fault, and therefore you are vulnerable. A rival who might have hesitated to strike now sharpens his blade. He feels certain he can defeat you because you have already defeated yourself. And what of allies? An ally does not wish to stand beside one who falters. Allies want strength they can depend upon, a partner who will not collapse when trials come. Show regret, and your allies begin to wonder if they chose wisely. They whisper to one another, they question their loyalty, and slowly they drift away. But if you project strength, even if it is false, they remain bound to you because strength is rare and men cling to it desperately. Understand that the theater of power is not about truth but about perception. If you project strength, even in failure, the people will reinterpret events to preserve their belief in you. They will excuse your mistakes, they will invent reasons for your decisions, they will shield your reputation because they desire to believe in the strength of their leader. But if you express regret, you force them to see the mistake, to acknowledge the weakness, and once seen it cannot be unseen. It is not cruelty to refuse apology, it is necessity. A ruler is not judged as other men are. He is not rewarded for honesty, nor respected for regret. His worth is measured by how unshakable he appears, by how firmly he walks forward regardless of the stones beneath his feet. He who shows regret invites judgment. He who shows strength silences it. Do not confuse this with arrogance. A wise ruler does not boast loudly, nor flaunt his infallibility. He simply refuses to kneel. He endures the storm in silence. He holds his head high, and in doing so he commands the respect of all who watch. Even those who hate him cannot help but admire his resolve, for power respects strength, and it despises regret. Let us turn now to the third lesson, one that separates the common man from the prince, the follower from the master. When you make a mistake, never admit guilt. Instead, control the narrative, bend perception to your advantage, shape the story before others can write it for you, and in doing so transform error into strategy. You see, to admit guilt is to give your enemies a gift. It is to hand them a sword forged from your own words, a weapon they will not hesitate to use against you. A ruler who confesses his faults places himself at the mercy of others, inviting judgment and mockery. But the ruler who commands the narrative ensures that even his failures are remembered as triumphs of cunning. Ask yourself, who controls the memory of history? Is it the humble man who admits his weakness, or is it the one who commands how events are told? Men do not remember truth. They remember the version of truth that is repeated, the tale that is told with confidence. And confidence does not belong to those who kneel in apology, but to those who dictate the story. Imagine this: a prince enacts a policy that brings hardship upon his people. The timid ruler says, "Forgive me, I was wrong." What follows, his enemies proclaim him unfit, his allies grow restless, and the people begin to murmur of replacing him. But the cunning prince, he never admits guilt. He declares instead, "This hardship is a sacrifice we must endure for future greatness." He transforms failure into necessity, the same act, the same outcome, but the perception is altered, and thus the power remains intact. This is the essence of control. Never allow your enemies to define your actions. Do not permit them to say, "He has erred," when you can say, "I have acted with intention." A misstep framed as deliberate strategy is not seen as weakness, but as foresight beyond the understanding of lesser men. Remember, the people want to believe their ruler has vision. Give them that belief, and they will excuse even your gravest mistakes. Controlling the narrative requires boldness. You cannot hesitate, you cannot waver. You must seize the story the moment it is born. The longer you allow others to speak, the stronger their version becomes. But if you step forward with authority, with certainty, then your voice drowns theirs. Men prefer the lie told with strength to the truth whispered with doubt. Think of leaders who fell not because of their errors, but because they admitted them. Their enemies needed no campaign of slander, no proof of incompetence. The rulers themselves supplied it with trembling confessions. And what of those who never admitted guilt? They may have been hated, even reviled, yet they remained upon their throne, for no one could pierce the armor of certainty they wore. Better to be despised as cunning than pitied as weak. To control the narrative is also to understand the theater of appearances. The masses do not examine events with detail, they consume them as stories. A famine can be framed as the cruelty of enemies, a defeat can be dressed as a lesson for future victory, a blunder can be painted as a calculated test of loyalty. So long as the prince provides a story that demands belief, the people will believe it. They prefer the comfort of explanation over the chaos of uncertainty. This does not mean lying without care. It means crafting perception with precision. If your hand is forced, do not admit guilt. Shift blame to circumstances, to fate, to necessity. Let the world think you were forced into a corner, that you chose the least evil of many evils. In this way, you remain untarnished, while the burden of failure rests upon forces beyond your control. Remember always that men are not guided by truth, but by the perception of truth. They do not ask, "What is reality?" They ask, "What appears real?" And he who controls appearances controls reality itself. To admit guilt is to surrender this control, to allow others to paint you as weak, incompetent, or unworthy. To master the narrative is to make even your failures feed the legend of your strength. So when you stumble, and every ruler, every leader, every man eventually stumbles, ask yourself, will I confess and beg for mercy, or will I command and reshape the tale? One choice brings pity, the other preserves power. For in the realm of men, it is not the innocent who prevail, but the master of appearances, the architect of stories, the one who controls the narrative instead of admitting guilt. Now we arrive at the final lesson, one that many misunderstand, for it walks a delicate line between deception and wisdom. Appear virtuous, but act strategically. Men long to see virtue in their leaders, yet they do not live by virtue themselves. They demand kindness, but respect cruelty. They praise honesty, yet follow those who deceive with confidence. Therefore, the prince must master the art of seeming to embody the virtues that men claim to admire, while in truth, acting only in ways that preserve power. Why is this distinction so vital? Because when a ruler clings sincerely to virtue, he becomes its prisoner. A man bound by honesty will be outmaneuvered by liars. A man who insists on mercy will be undone by those who strike without hesitation. A man who confesses every fault will be consumed by rivals who exploit his openness. But the ruler who cloaks himself in the appearance of virtue while acting with ruthless calculation possesses both loyalty and security. He is adored in public and feared in private, and no greater combination exists for maintaining authority. Consider this. The people do not see into the heart of their leader. They see only what is shown to them, the image that is carefully painted. If you present yourself as just, merciful, and honest, they will accept this illusion gladly, for it comforts them to believe they are ruled by a man of noble spirit. Yet behind the curtain, you must be free to act otherwise when necessity demands. If justice threatens your rule, you must discard it. If mercy endangers your authority, you must set it aside. If honesty risks your throne, you must speak with the tongue of deception. Appearances shield you from suspicion, while strategy keeps you in power. To appear virtuous is to wear a mask that pleases the crowd. To act strategically is to hold the dagger hidden beneath the cloak. The mask ensures their trust. The dagger ensures your survival. Men may despise cruelty when they see it openly, but if cruelty is hidden behind a smile, they accept the results without complaint. They celebrate the stability you deliver, the victories you secure, never realizing the cost of your methods. Think of the ruler who insists on absolute honesty. He tells his people of every weakness, every mistake, every shortcoming. At first, they praise his candor, but soon they lose respect. They whisper, if he admits weakness, how strong can he be? If he confesses mistakes, why should we trust his judgment? His honesty becomes a noose tightening around his own neck. Now consider the ruler who projects confidence and wisdom, who speaks always of his vision, who claims that even his errors were part of a greater plan. The people admire him, trust him, follow him. Though he lies, his lies elevate him, for they preserve the illusion of virtue. You must understand that men judge not by truth, but by appearances. They cannot look into your soul, and most of them would not care to if they could. They crave only to be reassured, to be comforted, to be told that their ruler is noble, wise, and good. Give them this show, and they will remain loyal, even as you act with cunning behind the stage. But if you abandon the mask and reveal your true calculations, they will recoil. They will call you cruel, deceitful, heartless. Even as they continue to admire rulers who practice the same arts, so long as those rulers never confess them. This is why apologies are fatal to power. They tear away the mask of virtue, exposing the man beneath. The people do not want to see that man. They want the illusion. They want to believe their ruler is steadfast, that his choices are noble, that his vision is flawless. By appearing virtuous, you grant them this comfort. By acting strategically, you ensure that their admiration does not cost you your throne. The wisest ruler balances these two elements with precision. He gives public displays of virtue, grand speeches of justice, gestures of mercy, promises of honesty. He lets the people see what they wish to see, but in the hidden chambers, in the councils of power, he acts with the ruthlessness necessary to survive. He removes threats before they grow. He deceives rivals before they can deceive him. He bends morality to his advantage, knowing that the crowd will never question what they cannot see. Men judge by results. If you win, if you preserve stability, if you deliver prosperity, they will forgive the unseen cruelties that made it possible. They will call you just even if you deceived them, merciful even if you punished without hesitation, honest even if every word you spoke was calculated. But if you cling to virtue without strategy, if you insist on exposing your weakness in the name of honesty, you will lose results. And with them, you will lose the people. They do not follow virtue. They follow strength wrapped in virtue's disguise. To appear virtuous is to satisfy the desires of the crowd. To act strategically is to satisfy the demands of power. Combine these, and you possess both the loyalty of your people and the fear of your rivals. And so, we return to the question with which we began: why must a ruler, a leader, or any man who seeks power never apologize? Because apology is weakness, and weakness is the invitation to be devoured. Authority crumbles the moment regret is spoken aloud. Respect does not follow confession. It follows strength, certainty, and the illusion of virtue maintained without pause. A prince must never kneel before the tribunal of public opinion. He must never place the sword of judgment into the hands of rivals by admitting guilt. Instead, he must command the narrative, shaping every error into strategy, every defeat into necessity, every flaw into vision. To the people, he must appear virtuous, unshaken, noble. But behind the mask, he must act with cunning, guided not by sentiment but by necessity. Remember this eternal truth: men do not follow the one who begs forgiveness. They follow the one who makes them believe. They bow not to honesty nor to humility, but to strength cloaked in virtue and wielded with calculation. The world does not belong to the penitent, it belongs to the decisive. And he who refuses to apologize, who instead bends all to his will, is the one who holds power.